Smiles rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tinker Time, an FPL pod, the show for every fantasy Premier League manager who's already second-guessing their first draft. It's Thursday, August 14th, 2025, and whether you finally locked in your Gameweek 1 draft or just here to discuss some differentials, you've come to the right place. I'm Matt, alongside Jim, and we're here to help you tweak, test, and yes, tinker your way to the top of your mini-leagues. We'll break down the best value picks, fixture trends, and hidden gems so you don't have to stare at your squad screen in despair. So let's pop the hood, crack open the spreadsheet, and get tinkering. Jamantha, how are we doing today?
29-ish hours to go. No, I went the wrong way.
You went the wrong way.
Yeah, 19-ish hours to go.
You're all mixed up.
I'm all messed up. I'm very excited for it.
I will admit, I was extremely productive at work today.
I believe you.
Just not about work. This is the moment we've been waiting for. I can't believe that the deadline is finally here. I probably am feeling the least confident I have
Really?
since I made my first draft, but I think it's probably just pre-game week 1 jitters.
No, that's not. That means
No.
your squad's not good.
I don't know. I mean,
You have every option open to you.
I have plenty of time still, though. Tomorrow is.
You're taking it off.
I wouldn't. They call them personal days. This is important. The lead up to kickoff. We're still waiting on a little bit of team news to come out. We had lots of pressers today. And not anything major that came out.
Yeah, no significant games were played since we spoke on Sunday.
Definitely not a significant game.
No.
There was no trophies raised.
No, so let's just focus on fantasy.
I love that. And for the viewers on pod only, I am definitely not wearing a full Spurs kit right now. Shirt and shorts.
That is nice.
Yeah. I just wear anything that fits these days. It's kind of hard. Game week 1. Let's talk a little bit about game week 1. I mean, it's new season. We talked about this being kind of the moment we've been building towards. There's so much excitement, right? I mean, at this point, everyone is tied for first and last. It's that chance to really wipe the slate clean, wipe away your poor decisions from last season, any sort of, I'm not going to say that Holland triple captain blanked for most players, but he did kind of blank for most players last season. So, are you going to make the mistake again this season? Maybe. Not you, but
Not me.
Other managers.
I'm not going to make any mistakes.
No mistakes this season. But, what are you most looking forward to this season?
At the beginning of the season,
Yeah.
my favorite thing is all the panic buys and sells after week 1. Even after like the Friday game. When people are just panicking that they don't have a Liverpool asset or they have somebody from Burnley and they, like you a couple of years ago, backed yourselves into triple bull somehow.
That was insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
It's those snap reactions that people are blowing their team up after week 1 when, at the end of the season, if you're down 10 points in your mini league after week 1, that's not gonna make a difference.
I will say I have fallen victim to some of those quick trigger transfers before the game week's even over, just trying to avoid price changes.
That's true. Injuries do make that a valid concern.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So this being our first deadline app, we're gonna probably try to keep a little bit more of a structure, a little bit more segmented, kind of rundown in place, just to get into a little bit more of a rhythm here, rather than compared to our last episodes or our first few episodes. So before we get into our team selections and some players to target for game week 1 deadline, we did want to just do something to help you as listeners ground yourself in a little bit of our conversations here. We've been made aware that not all of our listeners are experienced FPL managers. Some are brand new to the game.
Some just like listening to us.
Some like listening to us. So what we wanted to do was just take a few minutes and talk about some of the metrics that you might come across in our discussions within the FPL app itself. There's a ton of data when it comes to FPL. There's a ton of, analytics that you can do. And I'm saying analytics here in air quotes because sometimes people come up with their own shit and they convince themselves that based on the numbers,
Yeah.
this was the move and whatever helps you sleep at night, right? But we want to take a little bit of time. We're going to talk about the bonus point system as well, because that's some changes to the bonus point system that need to be made aware of. Not necessarily something that is going to directly impact the players that you choose, but it will impact scoring and it could impact point totals throughout the season. So we want to talk through that a little bit too. So having said all of that, we're going to talk through some of the most popular FPL metrics, and they're mainly focused and centered around player performance and kind of how you can use them to your strategy. So you may have heard on our last episode with FPL Black Lab, he referenced a few metrics, one of them being XG and XA or XGI. Those essentially mean expected goals, expected assists, and expected goal involvements, respectively. These are exactly what they sound. It's basically a measure of how likely a player is to score or how likely they are to pass, have one of their passes become an assist. Expected goal involvement is simply the sum of expected goals and expected assists. So these are really helpful in identifying attackers or players who are in good positions, even if they haven't scored yet. They're useful for spotting playmakers who are creating opportunities, and they're also helpful in predicting total attacking output. So a lot of times you'll hear players, well, their expected numbers are X and Y goals or Z goal involvements. Those are a way to give you some confidence that, hey, maybe the player's results aren't reflecting the impact that they're having on the game. But that being said, FPL doesn't score on expected goals and assists and goal involvements.
Right. I almost like to look at it the opposite way of which players are everybody hot on and looking to bring in, but really they're outperforming what they should be scoring. So, like, the central to midfield is a perfect opportunity for that. Thomas Suchek, he is always one that he's always in the goals.
Tommy.
And I'd say he probably outperforms his expected. But, Caicedo, for instance, everybody moved him in and is looking at him this year for the defensive contributions. But this would be a good way to characterize if we really think he's going to be an attacking contributor. Probably not.
Yeah.
So it's that way of kind of holding yourself from doing the gut reaction of, oh, he scored 2 weeks in a row, I got to bring him in. He's a great differential. When in reality, chances are for the rest of the season, he's not going to get in that position again with that many opportunities.
Yeah, I remember last year, I think it was Chris Wood. For some reason, I think he had about 20 goals last season is where he ended up. If we actually take a look at his expected goals last season, it was only 13.4. So that's a prime example of someone that had really outperformed his expected performance last season. So, going into this season, does that mean he's going to perform more like the player who is expected to score 13 goals? Or is he going to perform more like the player who actually scored 20 goals? We don't know.
Right. And he's probably priced this year at 7.5. He's priced as somebody who scored 20 goals.
Right.
Right. So you could look at it that way, that he's really not priced in where you would expect him to be in a week-to-week basis.
Yeah. So those are a few metrics just to understand off the rip. There's a few more metrics that the FPL game includes, one of them being form. So form is essentially the average points over the last 30 days provided by FPL. So basically what this is going to show is players that are kind of on a little bit of a heater. In our analysis, or our experience, I should say, it's not really necessarily an indication of a expected or predicted result. Just as easily as players can get hot, they can cool off, right? So you really got to kind of take this one with a huge grain of salt. It can definitely be more shorter term and definitely misleading. We've talked about ownership percentage or team selected by percentage, I think, till we're blue in the face so far on these different episodes. But essentially, this is the percentage of managers in the game who own the player. I think the biggest thing that you look here is look for those players that are either really, really highly owned, or you look for those players that are not very highly owned, and those are what we would call differentials. Total points is exactly what it sounds like. Cumulative points scored so far this season. It's good for history, but it's not necessarily predictive. And then there's the fixture difficulty rating. So we've talked about that before. It's not necessarily specific to a player, but you will see in the app fixtures assigned a difficulty. It's basically just FPL's scoring 1 through 5 of upcoming matches based on team strength. This is something that'll develop and change throughout the season. So if you look at it at game week 1, it should look different than at game week 21 because we'll start to get better information on how teams are performing. And green fixtures are easy and red fixtures are hard. All of these metrics are also included in a FPL metric called the ICT index. Frankly, I don't want to get too deep into this one. I think the math behind it, there's like 40 different metrics that go into creating this index.
Yeah.
I understand what FPL is trying to do, right? They're trying to give you kind of that silver bullet of, if we could rank all these different players across positions based on their form, their expected performance, their actual performance, their expected minutes, things like that, and rank them. I understand what they're trying to do. It'll also take a measure of influence or creativity and threat, right? So it's a broad composite stat for casual users. It's not as precise as expected goals and expected assists. So this is something that, like Jim, in my experience, I usually look at it and I go, wow, that's there, and I move on.
Yeah, because it's too simplified for me, because somebody could be, like we just said, somebody could be outperforming what their expectations are, have a high ICT, for after a couple week run. But that you really need to look at every component that goes into it rather than just blindly following that.
Yeah. So we just threw a lot of metrics out there. We want to talk a little bit, just briefly, about popular advanced usage of these metrics. So like I mentioned, right, like we have these metrics, but what's the strategy behind them? So if, let's say, you're looking for an explosive attacker, right, someone to really get you those goals, those goal threats, you would probably want to look at expected goals, expected goal involvement, and shots in the box. If you're looking for a way to identify budget defenders that you could choose, right? Maybe your funds are tied up in other positions and you want to keep your defense cost at a minimum. You could look at the expected goals conceded as a team, right? You could look at their minutes played. You could look at the bonus point system, and Jim's going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. When it comes to picking your captain, right? Every week you're going to have to make the decision of who to captain and who to vice captain. You're probably going to want to look at expected goals, expected goal involvements, fixture difficulty, maybe expected assists, right? All the kind of metrics that are going to really bump up your point totals. When it comes to identifying hidden gems, right? So this is exactly what we just talked about around, is a player underperforming on their expected goals or expected assists? If they have a low ownership percentage, right? So are they fitting that differential category, that less than 5% ownership that we talk about? Do they have some upcoming green fixtures, right? Can you get ahead of that before people start to transfer in those players? And then lastly, the rising stars. How do you kind of track those players that are coming in? Now you can look at transfer trends. All of that information is going to be available within the FPL app. FPL app went through a complete overhaul this season. Mixed reviews.
Yeah.
It still kind of sucks in my opinion. But the point being, there is a ton in the app. Don't get lost in it.
Probably too much.
Definitely too much for the casual user. But if you take the time to look at it, it may help you make some decisions.
Yeah. I mean, what I really use these for is, can I get out of a player early while his price is high and move on to somebody else while they're going to be coming into a good run or into a price rise? So it's just trying to stay ahead of the curve. That's really what I try to use it for. But it's not as easy as it's just like you get the number.
There's so many times. I mean, that's quite literally how I backed into Triple Wolves game week 1. Looking at ownership, looking at expected goals from last season, expected clean sheets. All the numbers worked out, which is, for someone like me who I love to have my decisions be justified, backed in data. It made all the sense in the world. But then, you also have to take into account your eye test, which, is not something that is ever going to be easily quantified.
Right.
But,
well, that's how it changes, keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. All right, Jimbo, talk to me about the bonus point system.
Yes, so the bonus point system, independent of the defensive contribution points that are new this year, the bonus point system has been there historically, and it takes into account pretty much every time a player interacts with the ball or interacts with somebody who has the ball. So it's really a running tally of how well or their mistakes that they make in those situations. In the app, in the fixtures page, after the match is done, there'll be, I think it's actually, they try to do it live, but at the end of the game, there'll be a table where, summarizing goals and assists and cards. And at the bottom of that, there'll be the bonus point system. And next to Holland, it'll say 54 points. That is not how many points you get. That's just the running tally. So whoever has the most points gets 3, second most points gets 2, and the third most gets 1. And I believe if there's a tie for first, I think it's only
Both
first.
would get 3.
Both would get 3.
And second place would not be awarded.
Correct. Only third place would get 1.
Yeah.
And then I think if there's a tie for second, I think both of them get 2 points.
Yeah. So essentially, they try to only
give out three players.
3. And the other thing to note, the 3 players do not all have to be from the same team.
Correct.
So like in a 0-0 kind of defensive game, it's very likely you might see both keepers get the 3 bonus points. So the bonus point system has been, like, in my opinion, it's been kind of like mystified in the past. It's been a little bit confusing to folks. There were some changes though this season. I know you're going to talk about those too.
Yeah. So for those that want to just look into it on their own, if you go into the FPL app and down to help and rules, and then, help and rules, and then tab over onto rules at the top, and then you scroll down. So there is how is BPS score calculated? So this is the running tally that goes through while the game is ongoing, and this is why I think it usually takes an hour or so after the match is finished for them to confirm the bonus points. But at a basic level, playing 1 to 60 minutes, a player gets 3 points. Over 60, they'll get 6 points. Obviously, you get points from scoring a goal. For scoring a penalty, you get 12. Keepers and defenders get 12 for scoring. Midfielders would get 18, and then forwards would get 24. So it's kind of so forwards are obviously getting more bonus points for scoring a goal, which is why they're typically, if they do score, they're the ones that get the bonus points. But that being said, midfielders and defenders and goalkeepers have other ways of getting those points. So if forwards and midfielders do score, yes, there's a higher probability that they'll get the bonus points, which is why bringing in those premiums in those positions are always better. But for defenders in like Matt said, a 0-0 game or a 1-1 game where, a center mid scores and it's not somebody that, was contributing most of the game, those bonus points will get probably spread out through the defense of the keeper. So if that keeper or defender get a clean sheet, that's 12 points. Saving a penalty is 8. Even something like an open play cross is a point, or a dribble or a key
Really,
pass.
like almost anything.
It's everything, which is why if you look at it as if you don't want to look at it, that's fine. They'll all be calculated on its own, but it's really how well does a player do, but with actual metrics behind it.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting too is like it almost makes it impossible to keep track of live. Like let the FPL gods do it yourself, because not only can they receive positive points, but they can also be docked points. For example, if your player is tackled, they actually lose a point on the bonus point system. So like unless you're going to sit there and there will be some people this season that are sitting there tracking tackles for DEF CON purposes. I don't know if I want to hang out with those people. But
but even like making an error that leads to an attempt on goal. So that's a very specific case. So in the course of 90 minutes in the game, you probably wouldn't have even noticed that because, keeper makes a save or another defender comes in to block it. But that's a -1. So
like a shot off target is -1. Like
shot on target is 2 though. So it's
shot off target feels like, you're really just putting salt in the wound. Like,
well,
you can't score if you don't shoot. Let them shoot.
Right, but
that's a shot.
So this is a different way of looking at XG, right? So
very true.
This is kind of tracking that.
You're so wise.
Nah.
You come up with that on your own?
Yeah. So I think the only one, or the biggest one that changed and also aligns with the defensive contributions is goal line clearances are 9 points. I think a goal line clearance has some impact on defensive contribution, right? Isn't that called out separately?
Let's see.
Or maybe we were just saying Tarkowski was the example with Van Dijk for goal line clearances last year. Either way, that's 9 points. So almost as good as a defender scoring as a goal line clearance. True. So it just goes to show that while the defense is not necessarily scoring offensive goals, if it is a 0-0 game or a 1-1 game, you're setting yourself up for those defensive or bonus points. And now I guess in conjunction with the defensive contributions. So those same actions would be counting for both.
I expect you on our next episode after the game week concludes, I want you to show me your tally of the bonus point system. I want you to pay attention.
Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely do that.
You have free time.
Like the old guys at the baseball game?
Yeah.
Keeping track?
That's the equivalent of what it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think the only other kind of point change is there was a revision to how assists are being awarded this season.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to get into the details of it because I don't really know the details of it, but I do know that I would expect assist numbers to go up this season.
I think the big one was last year a player had to be intending to pass the ball to their target.
Yes.
Even if it was touched by a defender, they had to be intending to pass it to their teammate prior to it being touched. This year, that's not the case. They just need to be the last one on their team to have touched it prior to the goal.
Yeah. So definitely something that is going to, I think, just kind of increase point totals. I wouldn't expect players to play any differently because of this. Actually, I think if any player is playing differently for FPL, they probably will get suspended. So none of these changes should impact how they
last
play.
week you said that you want these players just to decide what team they're going to play on.
I mean, they know about the game. I saw an interview today. Jared Bowen was not happy that he was, one, more expensive this season, and two, he was reclassified.
He must have listened to me on the
He
pod.
probably did. I texted him.
How do you have all these guys' numbers?
Well, yeah, they're all over Grinder. Okay, so why don't we've talked enough about scoring.
Yes.
I think at this point, why don't we get into some of the heavy questions?
Well, let's do it.
First question that folks are probably wondering, who should I captain this week? So just some context on captainship. Every week, you as your manager of your team will get to select one captain and one vice captain, just in case your selected captain does not play. A captain's point totals will be doubled for that game week. Okay, so if Mo Salah goes out and scores 12 points on his own, and you put the captain band on him at the beginning of the week, he will actually have scored 24 points. Okay. Similarly, if a goalkeeper concedes, I think it's 3 goals, and they actually score a -2, and for some reason you made them captain, they would actually provide you with a -4 in terms of points. So it's a pure just whatever the player scores times 2. There's no netting out or anything like that. So Jimbo, why don't you talk through who the top captain picks are, and maybe we can kind of compare our top 3 picks.
Okay. So,
And these don't have to be players in your squad.
so we'll say this with a grain of salt. I think you and I are both believers that
Believers.
absolutely since 2012,
Baby.
2010. Anyway, we are
Eeny,
both,
meeny, miny, mo lovers.
are
Don't
both,
copyright that.
both believers
Ugh.
that you never captain the early game. It's just it always.
What do you
seems
mean
to
by
sting
that?
you. So whatever the first game of the game week. So in this case, it's going to be Liverpool versus Bournemouth tomorrow afternoon. It just, if you blank on the first one, your first captain, and then you have to go the whole weekend trying to play
It just
catch up.
ruins your week.
Yeah.
It really does. Like, it's one of those things where if the player goes off, you're like, oh, I can, like, whatever. I can live with that because
Yeah.
I still have a chance to catch him. I don't know. But if he
Exactly.
blanks, it puts a sour note on the entire weekend.
So with that being said,
That being said,
I think Holland versus Wolves is my top captain pick of the week.
are you teasing anything?
No, you said it didn't have to be in my
I
squad.
said it didn't have to be. But okay.
So I think
We'll hold it.
Holland versus Wolves. I think he's going to come out hot. I mean, what
You
else?
think he's hot?
What else do you have to say?
So-
He scored. I think both of his openers. Is this season 3? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Wolves stink. They're on my relegation watch. I think Holland's going to have at least one.
Yeah. So I also have Holland as, and these are in no particular order. I didn't go as far, but
But you do have that as your third.
I do have him as my third best option, and I'll tell you why. So I agree with you. Wolves away is a phenomenal opening fixture. City as a team are actually expected to score over 2 goals against Wolves. So you got to think Holland's going to be involved in those goal contributions in some capacity.
Yep. He's on pens.
He's on pens. We
Wolves
think.
might be a little nervous.
Is he on pens? Are we sure about that?
Yes.
Okay. Well, will KDB out? I mean, yeah, I think Holland, he's been pretty nailed on pens the last couple seasons. As far as preseason form, his game week 1 history, he's been strong. I mean, he had a little bit of a dip last season, but I think he still netted over 20 goals. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but as far as, his goal potential, he's just a big dude. He's going to get his chances in there. He's not necessarily that, he's not going to be someone that you put the ball at his feet in crunch time and say, go get me a goal. He's going to need a little bit of help. He's going to need a little bit of creativity. City did bolster that midfield. They bolstered their wings. They've got that creativity. Expect him to be the beneficiary of that investment.
Yeah. Easy pick for me.
One of the things I like to think about, too, when it comes to captain picks their boom bust likelihood, right? How likely?
Go on.
I'll get to this one. So when we talk about boom, right? Like you think about how likely they are to go off,
To have a boom,
to have a boom.
like the Costco guys.
Yeah, I mean they're not sponsoring us, but I like to feel like they inspired us. So the fixture does favor scoring, right? We talked about Wolves. Bust in this case is
Talk to me
not
about your bust.
well-
Your bust picks.
my bust pick. Who doesn't love a good bust in every facet of the word? Well, maybe not every, most of them. How many facets are there? I don't know. But the point being, I think when you think about Holland's boom bust likelihood, I'm going to keep saying boom bust.
You're really diving in on
I'm
this
diving
boom
in
bust.
on boom bust. I think this could be a thing.
I think you could have summed it up much faster than this.
The point being, the likelihood of Holland going off versus the likelihood of him completely blanking, busting.
So you think he's more likely to go off than to bust?
I do, which is why I think he favors a potential captaincy pick. I think his floor, however, is a little bit lower because he's not someone who's going to go out and create a goal on his own. He needs that help. He needs that creativity, but he has the people around him to do it. So we'll see. But
Okay.
we're in agreement.
Great pick.
Great pick this week.
Yeah.
Definitely one to consider. All right. Give me another one. What do you got?
Look, I think we have the same one here. So if I was not going to pick Holland first, I think Salah versus Bournemouth. The only reason that I put him one step behind Holland is maybe
You hate Egypt.
no.
Oh.
I think Ekatike and Verts might be trying to get their own, you know.
They got to get their nut.
Make their mark early. So will the extra pass be there? Who knows? That's why I say Holland is one step ahead, plus Mo plays on Friday.
It's so hard to bet against Salah. Salah
He
has had
scored how many opening weeks? Also, or 2, right?
8 straight
Yeah.
game week 1 returns of more than 5 points.
Well,
so
that's kind of
yeah, but that means he's scoring a goal. Or I guess he could be having an assist. He's contributing in the score sheet in some capacity. Well, if he played and they gave up a goal, he'd only score 2 points. But the point being, he's been elite as far as opener records go. His expected goal involvements historically very high. You mentioned, Arverts or Ekatike or even Gakpo, who's slated to start on the left-hand side there. Are they going to kind of maybe dilute some of what Salah's able to score on his own? Or does Salah become an assist machine now because he has more weapons? And, I don't want to say more weapons because I don't want to, say anything bad about Luis Diaz. But, these are guys that are really expected to light up the score sheet this season.
Yeah.
When it comes to everyone's favorite segment, boom or bust, I think this is another example
Please
where
tell me, explain it again.
I think Salah's got a very low bust potential. I love that opening fixture. I love his pedigree when it comes to game week 1 returns. He's got a very high boom potential, in my opinion.
I think we need to rename
3 booms.
It's so silly. Oh, God.
Okay. But we'll see. I don't know. That early fixture definitely kind of scares me a little bit. So I might lock my team in. And the other thing, too, with captaincy, sometimes you do wait until you're a little bit closer to the deadline if you're unsure, just in case anything comes out. But that's why it's even that much more important to make sure you have a strong vice captain in mind. For me, there's one other player that stands out. You already mentioned him, ice cold Cole Palmer. He's playing Palace at home. He had 2 basically back-to-back standout campaigns. He showed very well at the Club World Cup, fake tournament, but still they've got this badge on their shirt now, so whatever. But Chelsea looked good.
Yeah.
Some of these teams that are playing in these tournaments, they're playing, across Europe, international, they look tired sometimes. Sometimes they kind of have that hangover, if you will, to start the season because they didn't really get a true offseason, a true training session with, some of the transfers into the squad. But Chelsea have looked good. We got to give it to them.
And they have the squad size to share the burden there. It's not like Spurs where they'd be playing the same 11.
Size isn't everything, but in this case, it kind of helps.
Go on.
Should we get to everyone's favorite segment?
Get it over with.
All right. So I can't even say it. Palmer's boom bust likelihood. I will say out of the 3, I think Palmer has the highest bust risk. 1, there are some new faces around him at Chelsea. I think it may take some time for him to get comfortable He's got João Pedro up top who's going to demand the ball to get his nut. So, is Palmer going to be someone who distributes the ball a little bit more? He'll probably still be on pens until he's not. But is he someone who is going to go out there and score 4 goals, a game? Or is he going to be trying to involve his teammates a little bit more? We'll see his play style. I am on record. I think Palmer's going to have a phenomenal breakout season. I think he's going to eclipse 300 points by the time we're all said and done here. So, someone that I would also consider with Salah, with Holland in your game week 1 captaincy.
Yeah, he was on my radar as well. And I think part of the reason is against Palace as well. I don't really have much. I think they're going to be fine. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year defensively. And especially with Eze rumored to be on his way out. The other guy that I had in there as a potential pick was João Pedro. I think he's going to look to get off the mark early at Chelsea. And like we said, they've been playing well. I think it's going to be a great season for him. Do you have any fun ones? I have a fun one. I don't know. I would never do it.
I have a fun one.
I say anybody on Sunderland.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm high.
Is that fun or just crazy?
It's both.
Talk me through it.
They're fans. I just can't see them losing this game. Their fans are going to be.
You think Sunderland are going to beat West Ham?
Yes.
Really?
I do.
You think Graham Potter's going to lose?
I think they're going to win 1-0 at home.
1-0?
Yes. They're going to score. It's going to be madness. And then it's going to be
goodness.
40 minutes of everybody chewing on their hats, waiting for them to concede, but they won't do it.
When you asked me if I had a fun one.
Let me ask you this one before we move on. Did you see their new third kits?
The black ones?
The blacked out murdered ones?
Those are
with the cats on the back?
Those are really nice.
Awesome.
I will say, if the outcome of the game was decided just purely on kits, I think Sunderland would probably be in Champions League.
Yeah.
Those are beautiful.
They're
now,
nice.
I am also on record, though, saying I don't think every team needs a black kit. Sunderland,
These ones you do, though.
I think, can pull it off.
The cat eyes. Imagine if we had the Spurs blacked out ones with chicken eyes on the back.
Some cock eyes. Yeah, I'd love that. All
right, so who's your fun one?
Okay, so my fun one is purely based off a hypothetical game that definitely didn't happen over the last few days. Hamid Kudus, pathetically, allegedly, looked great against those damn Parisians.
I can picture him doing great.
I honestly hadn't spent a ton of time watching him in preseason. I hadn't spent a ton of time watching him when he was at West Ham. I was very impressed. His involvement in essentially a game that doesn't really mean anything.
Theoretical game.
Allegedly.
Yeah.
But he was out there. He was fighting for the ball. He was electric. He was making an impact. He's someone that could have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, coming to a bigger club. Great opening fixture against Burnley, right? Burnley, are they going to defend? That was kind of their namesake back in the championship. But this is the Prem. These are the big boys. It's a little different here. So
I like that. That's a good one.
It's a differential. I shouldn't say it's a full differential. I think his expected ownership is a little bit higher.
Differential captain pick.
But definitely on the captain pick.
Yeah.
So I don't know about you, Jimbo, but sometimes I get a little bit hungry.
I could see that.
You could see that? Oh, what do you mean by that?
I could really see that.
Okay. Sometimes you just want to reach for like a little bit of
something sweet.
Something sweet.
Yeah.
Something kind of chocolatey.
Yeah.
Maybe something a little minty. Jimbo, they're operating right now. And I'm telling you, these doctors, they don't know the power of the Junior Mint. You pop one in, boom, chocolate on the outside, cool, creamy peppermint on the inside. It's refreshing and delicious. And I mean, who wouldn't want that in their life? Or, in their chest cavity. They're light, Jim, practically aerodynamic. You could throw one across a room and it's still going to land perfectly. I did it. I saw it. And the patient, he's doing great. He's fine, probably better than fine. He's got minty fresh insides now. So folks, head to juniormintdelight.com and use code DELICIOUS for 10% off your first box. That's juniormintdelight.com, code DELICIOUS. Junior Mints, they're chocolate, they're peppermint, they're perfect. And back to the pod. All right, Jim, so we just talked about captaincy. Why don't we try to talk through some players that are a little less owned, maybe go through some differential kind of hidden gem under the radar picks.
Okay.
I've got a few in mind. So what I like to do when I'm looking at differentials, I like to take into account the percentage owned and their fixtures. Form for me is not as important because mainly when I'm looking at a differential, I'm really targeting that fixture. So when we talk about defenders, for
you think
example,
form is not important?
it's not to me the most important.
you think form is less important than fixture. I think that's
Traditionally, that's what I usually look at. And I'll give you an example, right? So if I'm looking at, let's say, Spurs in game week 1. Now, obviously, differentials in game week 1, they're a little bit unique because you have all the funds that I shouldn't say all the funds that you could have, but everybody has the same amount of money. Players' prices aren't changing up and down yet. So you can really target who you want in game week 1. But let's just say you had low funds and you're really looking for like a 4.5 mil price defender, or you want to find someone who is a premium defender who maybe is a little bit lower owned so that you can get that differential pick. There's a few players that I have identified that could be worth your time. And these ones I did rank. The first being Murillo at Nottingham Forest. So as it stands right now, he's about 6% owned, so a little bit higher than the 5% differential threshold.
Is he a 4.5?
I believe he's at 5.5.
He is 5.5.
Yeah, so a little bit more expensive. He's going to be one of those players that, and you've heard about him, somehow his ownership is lower, but does stand to benefit from the defensive contribution point system. Forest do have a pretty favorable fixture run to start. Last season, 12 clean sheets, 2 goals. He also had the highest defensive contribution count on his team. He's also got great bonus point potential, and now he's a differential because of his ownership. So Murillo is one of those players that I'm thinking about bringing in, or I could think about bringing in on the defensive side of things. What do you think?
Yeah, I could see that. If you're going for a Forest defender,
Milenkovic is like the popular Forest defender right now.
He's at 10.3 at the moment. So at the same price point, you're saying, well, that's tough because it's the same price point.
Yeah.
So you're saying you trust him more to score independent of clean sheets?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily that I trust him more, but I think it's just really about getting someone in your squad that a lot of other folks don't have. So I think what is Milenkovic's ownership right now?
10.3.
And Murillo is about 6. So
yeah,
a little less than double.
Right. But I don't see how that helps you.
Well, I think Murillo...
At the same price point, why wouldn't you just go for Milenkovic, who has a higher expected contribution?
That's a totally fair point. I don't personally see myself choosing Murillo.
He's your number 1 ranked.
No. He's number 1 ranked as far as someone you could target, but it doesn't mean I'm going to pick him.
So you want everybody else to pick him?
I want everybody else to pick him.
Why don't we move on to number 2?
Let's go to number 2.
I think that's flawed. I think your number 2 is a better example.
So number 2, Jed Spence. And this is a really interesting one. So he's playing wingback at Tottenham. He's in Frank's system. Destiny Udogie, who he would, in theory, kind of compete for minutes against. I believe he was on the bench in the alleged game against Paris Saint-Germain.
Theoretically, he was on the bench, yeah, and is not going to start.
But he was very attacking. So he's only 4.5 mil. He's less than 1% owned at the time when I pulled these numbers. He's got that attacking threat, defensive return. Spurs have a great opening fixture against Burnley, and we had a very popular defensive pick for a clean sheet. You know, his ultra low ownership is, he's going to be someone who, if Spurs hit, he could be one of those guys that hit.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting if Frank does keep the back 3. That makes him even more valuable. So I really like that. And so he's at 4.5.
Yeah.
One question flagged. He's owned by 1.9%.
Yeah. So both. And I could see Frank rotating them as the season goes on, right? Like unless Spence just kind of takes the position and runs with it.
Yeah.
But they're going to have European competition. Destiny has had injury concerns and a history of injuries over these last few campaigns. So keeping him healthy, keeping him fit is going to be something that Frank might want to prioritize, especially when it comes to Europe. So Spence might be the beneficiary of some of those Premier League minutes. You like that one?
I do like that one.
Okay. What do you got there, Jimbo?
So this was brought up by FPL Black Lab, and I really wish I could get him into my squad, but I can't make it work. Jean-Philippe Mateta at Palace. He's owned by 9%. He's just, that consistent forward. And I am a little scared if Eze does leave, what Palace looks like. But if Eze stays, or if they sell him and are able to backfill with somebody, I think he's a consistent forward in the league that kind of goes under the radar, but, does well. Last year he had 14 goals, 2 assists.
I think he's on pens too this season. Even if Eze is there.
Oh, that would be even better.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure against Liverpool, he took the pen, right?
He did.
Yeah. And Eze was on the pitch.
Yeah. So he had 14 and 2 last year. The year before, 16 and 7, and that's with playing 33 and 25 games. So He's very consistent. Yeah. So he hasn't played a full season. He's owned by 9%. He is at 7.5 though. And that 7.5 is kind of that midpoint where the forwards are tough. You either have to kind of push for it and sacrifice somebody in the midfield, or
he's one of those players I just feel like every season that I can remember of him being a part of the Prem, he just has like a 4 or 5 week run where he's just like unstoppable.
And it's usually the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually not to start the season. So take that for what it is, right? Is it really someone that you want to have in game week 1? But I think to your point, there has never been this much uncertainty or rumors or noise around Eze's departure, especially coming off the heels of James Madison injury. Spurs have all the reason in the world to go out and get this guy. So we'll see. So yeah, Mateta's a great choice. Yeah. I really like that. I think he's someone you're going to see in more drafts than you would expect. But the numbers right now would say that you're getting a differential. You're getting that hidden gem. One other player in the midfield that I want to highlight, and you talked about him a few weeks ago, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall.
I like to call him Drewsbury.
Drewsbury. He's someone that I think he's going to slot right into their lineup, right into that first team. He's going to be a menace. He's going to be involved.
Right next to Jack.
Do you think Jack takes minutes from NDI? And I just wanted to say his name to see if I was close. But at 6.5 mil, I mean, he could be incredible value. But we don't know about his minutes yet.
Yeah, I would assume he doesn't start the season. If he does, but he would then quickly get those minutes. For me, it's just a matter of who's playing up top at Everton. Who do they have to contribute to?
Yeah.
If they find a striker that they can gel with, I think KDH is going to be a great pick, and so is Grealish. But right now, it's a wait and see with maybe some optimism.
Yeah. So I think those could be some players you may look to target. That being said, you don't need a full team of differentials. Sometimes all it takes is 1 or 2 to be the difference in outscoring in a game week. One thing we do want to just talk a little bit about, and it's a little less relevant right now, just because, again, it is game week 1, but something we'll keep an eye on as the season progresses, is ownership changes. So what you'll see in the app a lot of times is players being transferred in and players being transferred out. And really why this is important, so everyone at the start of the season will start with a certain price point, as you've seen when you're drafting your teams. A player's price can increase or decrease based on how they're performing and their ownership. So we'll give an example of someone that has been talked about a lot. We've seen him kind of getting a lot of buzz, and that being Marc Guéhi or Marc Guéhi. So he's all the rage right now, right? 4.5 mil priced, expected to be nailed, maybe not game week 1, but eventually forward at Sunderland. So what's interesting about him, his ownership right now, do we have the latest number on his ownership?
16, high 16s.
High 16s. That still may go up by the time this pod gets released. There's a little bit of risk when it comes to selecting somebody with that high of an ownership that may not play to start the season. So we don't know necessarily if he's going to start, because new players come in. Sometimes they take a few weeks to get into a system. But what can happen? His price point is still set, and his ownership is still set. So if you're banking on Guiu coming in, kind of being that player that you put on your bench just because you need to have another forward and you don't want to put a lot of money into it, what can happen is if Guiu doesn't feature, or if he doesn't play, or if he plays very sparingly, his price could actually drop. And that's a really big issue in game week 1 or 2, because you're basically starting your season at a discount where all the other managers around you might have that same 100 million balance after a game week 2 or 3. But if you're at 99.9, that's immediately going to price you out of a ton of players. That extra 0.1 or 0.2 that, they might go down or up in some instances, right? Players could have their price increase if they perform well and their ownership is lower. But the point being, if you had to choose today between Guiu, who you're stashing on your bench, that has a high ownership, that may or may not feature, you're not positive, or someone on, say, Burnley, who's 4.5, they have no ownership, you don't care. They're purely just someone who's taking up a space because you have to take 15 players. You may want to actually take the latter to avoid that risk. What do you think?
So I agree.
Did I do a good job explaining that?
You did. You did a great job. And let me, well, to answer your question, for me, who I've said Guyu's on my bench, I'm not going to move him out because I'm never planning on starting him, right? So I'm planning on starting a 3-5-2. He would get subbed in if needed. And so the reason I'm not going to bring him out is that realistically, I'm not going to want to spend a transfer to bring him back in. So if he's on my bench, he drops to 4-4 because he doesn't play. That's okay because I'm not actively planning on transferring him out. He's not where I would be looking to bring in another forward at the moment. Right?
That's interesting.
So I think maybe a better example to be aware of for the price drop is Wissa at Brentford. So
That
right
is a
now
good one.
he's 7.5. He's not playing with the squad. They've said he's not going to feature, and who knows how long that's going to be. He's owned by 4.5%, 5%, 4.5. So
Yeah, low.
but not nobody, So, but that's an example of he's on your squad. If he drops to 7.4 because people forgot to take him out or didn't see the news, then you're immediately priced out of every other 7.5, and you're forced to go down to 6.5 or 6.
Yeah.
Basically. So I think it is something to keep in mind. But if you're also not planning on starting that person, it might not be a move to consider. Because if you bring in a Burnley forward, you're never going to start him.
Never.
Right.
No, it's purely just a holdover.
So he would be stuck with you until you wild card, or you have to burn a transfer to use that slot.
That's a phenomenal shout.
Yeah. So that's why I'm keeping him. If it was, I did move some of my defenders around for that fear that they don't start and they drop the points, and then I'm kind of stuck. For Guyu, I'm going to keep him there.
Yeah. So as far as just a few players to highlight as far as ownership changes, let's actually bring up, so there's this nifty tool called FPL.team, and they'll give you this information. All you have to do is enter in your team ID, and this is all, getting updated live. So as far as ownership risers, so players that are being transferred in actively by managers over the last hour, top 5, Dubravka, who has gone up 0.2%, so is now sitting at 31.5% ownership. Ollie Watkins, up to 25.1% ownership. Sanchez, the keeper at Chelsea, up to 23%. João Pedro, up to 55.9%. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And your boy Drewsbury Hall, up to 4.2.
Yeah.
So
we're still getting a lot of, I can't believe João Pedro's 55.
I can't believe he's so high when you look at someone like Solanke, who is the same price, who's also going to be on pens, who got 20 minutes or so against PSG in the alleged Super Cup loss in PKs. So, I think Solanke's pretty much guaranteed to play at least 60, but either way. And then on the flip side, right, so players who have, we've seen managers transfer out of their lineups. So Gabriel over at Arsenal, and Lewis Skelly. Gabriel is down to 18.8%. Lewis Skelly's down to 4.4%. That one doesn't really surprise me. I think we've seen a lot of folks who are basically just trying to say, we're going to hold off on Arsenal for the first few game weeks because of those fixture runs, but then we're going to try to bring them back in. So we'll see what kind of happens there. Those are two players that, even though they're falling as far as ownership, I don't expect their form to drop. So their price points, I don't expect them to drop in the near future. Kelleher, keeper at Brentford, he has dropped because he's been flagged for injury, I think a knock. At this point, I think he's still expected to play. So it could just be some fear coming in from folks. It does look like he's still expected in that first lineup come Saturday. So we'll see what happens there. You mentioned Wissa, right? Already kind of being moved out by some managers. And then your boy, Danny Welbeck. Down to 5.2%.
Yeah.
So,
and I think we said he's a player that I think he's good to bring in mid-season for, when they're playing well and they got a nice run of fixtures. But that is a perfect example of if you have him as a featured starter, he's just going to hurt you.
Yeah. So we've talked a lot about strategy, metrics, different players to target, maybe players to avoid, some differentials. But I think we've finally gotten to that point. After 7+ episodes, 1 million hours of prep work, even more time in the app, tinkering with teams.
Couple of laughs.
Few laughs, 2 tree, couple of Mai Tais. Oof. I think we're at that time where we can finally reveal our teams.
You want to do it?
I think we're ready. This is what the people have been waiting for. Now, this is by no means necessarily the final selections. There is still time between now and the deadline.
True.
Things could change. But I think going into this whole venture, Jim and I would try to keep our lineups as sound as we can, but we do have personal interest. I know some other managers that we play against might try to use this to their advantage at certain points of the season. And to them, I say, screw you.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. All right, Jimbo.
You want to go first? You want me to go?
I think, you want to go first?
I can go first.
Why don't you go first?
I haven't made substantial changes, so it'll be
So
quick.
walk us through, let's go positionally.
All right.
Who is your starting keeper and backup keeper?
Well, so keepers, I have Darlow and Dubravka. So 2-4. I'm going to be swapping back and forth based on who I like. And
Who started game week 1?
Darlow versus Everton. Defense, I have De Kuiper, Esteve, Rodon, Dorgu, and Rynillo.
Joe Rodon.
Joe Rodon, former Spur.
He was in my first draft.
I know.
And you scoffed at him.
I brought him in. I think he's actually the only change I made. Maybe Darlow. I brought him in because I think he's more nailed of a starter than who I had. I think even if I was afraid of the price drop.
So he's playing for you.
He's playing.
Interesting.
I'm not expecting much. He's my first bench. Oh no, he is starting
Can I
this week.
put my 2 cents in on that?
Give it to me.
I imagine you're not expecting a lot out of him.
I'm not expecting a lot out of my entire defense. That's why it's all out of those 7 players, I have 2 4.5s and 5 4s.
So interestingly enough, I think I had
That's
mentioned
29 mil.
I mentioned it on like a very early episode. His center back partner, Struik, who's also, I believe, is he priced 4.5?
I believe he is. Let's check.
FPL
He
has
is
him
4.5.
on penalties at the moment. If that's true, I don't know how you pick Rodon over Struik.
So I did see today DCL to Leeds.
I did see that. It's on.
It's out.
We got the here we go, Fabrizio.
I don't think it's here we go yet.
Okay.
But I think it's locked in.
Okay. So you think
For
DCL
whatever
takes
that
over Pens?
So I think that was part of why I wasn't going a Leeds cheap striker. You know, that's why part of played into keeping Guyu.
What is DCL priced?
He's not in the game. He's a free agent at the moment.
Yeah, but he was on Everton's. Oh, he left on a free.
Yeah, he doesn't have a squad.
Do they show his information from last year? Oh, I want to say he was 6.5 last year.
It wasn't great, but
That was.
if he does come to Leeds, he's gonna be better than anybody they have.
He's got to be on Pens. It's awesome foresight.
Yeah, so that's why I'm not stretching for Streak. I'm going Joe Rodon. I'll get what I get.
Honestly, I was also just selfishly, I wanted Streak to be in your team because I wanted to hear you pronounce his name.
I think I nailed it. Streak.
Streak? Okay.
That's probably the best name we've pronounced
We're getting really good at
in
this.
9 episodes.
I was honestly thinking Gokeres, Yakares, Yakaresh,
Gherkins.
Gherkins, Yorkas. This guy's got 5 names,
Yeah.
and they're all stupid.
And
All right,
a
let's
bad
get back to
attitude.
your team.
All right, so that's my defense. Again, not much invested there. 2 4.5s are my premium players. Midfield, I have Saka, Palmer, Wirtz, Marmouche, and Bruno. Marmouche is the only one that I'm concerned about if he does start. If he doesn't start, I'm still confident. You know, I think it's probably a rotation, but he is 8.5, so I could easily move down to anybody that I would like if need be. But I think even if he doesn't start 90 or start and play 90 every game, I think he's still going to be a good FPL asset.
Yeah, City, we've talked about their rotation risk probably more time than we need to. You know, it's super interesting. So Fantasy Football Scout, which is one of those sites that, you know, folks can use. There's some free features, there's some paid features, but they actually do not have in the first team predicted lineup for City, they do not have Marmouche starting. They don't even have Guardiola starting, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if I trust it. I can't picture Bernardo Silva starting with Gundogan.
The only thing
This is
to
not
me-
2020.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I think that I could maybe see the argument is it's Wolves, right? So are they giving some of those players who maybe are a little bit more experienced, but not necessarily the players you would want in a massive fixture? Are they giving them some minutes?
I don't trust this.
If Marmouche was coming in brand new, if he hadn't had minutes last campaign, I would almost make the argument, okay, you know, Pep, maybe he's going to ease him in. But seeing Titty Reindeer, seeing Ryan Cherky in here, Seeing, I mean,
Yeah, Cherky, Doku, Silva, Gundogan are all going to start over Foden.
Foden, I
and
think, has a
Marmoush.
knock. That's what I heard.
Does he?
I heard Foden has a knock.
Still, I can't see. I just can't see Silva and Gundogan starting together.
Yeah.
And if either of those don't start, then I can't see Marmoush not starting.
I doubt Savinho gets much time,
Yeah.
if at all. He's been heavily transferred to Spurs. So, I mean, as far as depth goes, I would think Marmoush has a pretty clear path. I would think he
Yeah.
would start, to your point, over Gundo, over Silva. But
Let's see where Doku and how much he likes Cherky. But yeah,
I love Jerky.
Marmoush is my only one that I don't think is going to be a 90-minute player
90.
in and out. I could take the risk because I could really get to anybody else.
That's true. That's good planning.
And then forwards, I have Mark Guiu, as we said, Nicholas Fulkrug, and Erling Haaland, who will be my captain.
So Holland's getting, who's your vice?
Right now, I think I have it on Palmer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that. You're locked into those, you think?
I'm locked in. Unless news comes out and something scares me off Marmoush, I think I'm locked.
Are there any players right now that you're even contemplating? Other than Marmoush, maybe, but it sounds like you're not really.
No. I think I'm going with this. We'll see where injury and rotation take us.
Interesting.
I like this for the start of the season.
Well, let me just say, best of luck to you.
You don't mean that.
I don't mean it, but
But thank you.
I want it on record that I
Yeah.
did wish some sort of good fortune your way.
All right, let's get into yours. Saudi, not Saudi.
So mine's interesting because I look back to my first draft.
You made a presentation?
Well, we have the visual here. It helps.
Yeah.
I told you I worked really hard at work today. I think it's just so crazy. Like, I wish I had a screenshot of my first draft for the season because I know there's been a
You
lot
probably
of changes.
texted it to me if you look
I probably
back.
did. I could probably look back in the archives. That being said, so I've got my keepers. I've got everyone's favorite body part, Riola, starting in goal against Sunderland.
That's a shame because Sunderland's going to win that game 1-0.
You did mention that, so off the rip, you're already rooting against me here.
But yeah, no, I'm happy for you. This is great.
I also have Dubravka. Officially, I feel like I was on the Dubravka to Burnley off the rips. He's going to be on my bench to start. I don't know how long I'll keep Areola, to be very honest.
Is he 4.5?
Yes.
Okay.
I might move off him even before we're done recording. We'll see. I've been kind of playing.
Okay, so you're not locked.
I'm not locked yet on Areola.
Okay.
I love the fixture, and I have fallen into this trap before.
You're a fixture guy, not a form guy.
Yeah.
And I'm the opposite.
Yeah. There's more than one way to skin a cat, right?
Not Sunderland.
Getting into my defense.
Oh, boy.
So this first one here, we talked about Poro. I think he's super attacking. I think if you've seen his heat map from preseason and even just like watching him over the last couple seasons, he's going to be involved in the attack. I believe he's on corners as well. And I think depending on where the ball is positioned, he may even be on free kicks. So could be someone who's going to have that goal threat, going to have that influence in the attacking third.
And if we play back three,
If we play back three, he's
even
up
better.
there.
Yeah.
He is up there on that right flank. You mentioned De Kuyper for all the same reasons. I love his price. Lots of promise. I mean, could be one of those players at Brighton that, is he the, next Estupinian? Like, I don't know. We'll have to see. But Brighton just seemed to kind of have that ability to, just churn out these players that come from seemingly nowhere and they take the league by storm.
Yep.
And then they sell them for 10x 2 seasons later. The next one, Van de Ven, right? Mickey.
yeah.
I love the fixture, let me say. Spurs playing Burnley. Van de Ven, in my research, stands to benefit from defensive contributions. He is the fastest player. He's the fastest person in the world. Extreme. I think he's actually the fastest the Prem has ever seen. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's pretty close.
I thought that was Kyle Walker.
Oh, you're right. It was Kyle Walker, but he's definitely lost a step now. So he's definitely the fastest in the league right now. Thomas Frank loves a good set piece. We saw Spurs score. It was a little bit of a breakdown, kind of a scramble, but Van de Ven was on the receiving end of a set piece kind of breakdown against that alleged game against PSG midweek. So he got in the goal column.
He's 4.5.
He's 4.5. I think if he can stay healthy, he could be a player.
That's a
Big if. But he is healthy right now. I mean, he came out of the game against PSG. No knocks. We feel good about that. He's kind of, if you look at his profile, he should be involved on these set pieces. He should be getting forward.
He's big.
He's a big
tall.
aerial threat,
He's fast.
tall, fast, devilishly handsome too. I love a good-looking team.
Owned by 26%.
He went up after the last couple of weeks.
It's worth noting he did miss a penalty. One of the
It was awful.
saddest penalties I've ever seen.
But stick to your tap-ins, stick to your headers off across.
I don't know why you took the third penalty for us.
Who else was there?
Ridiculous.
Yeah, really bad. So I'm going to go 3-5-2 this week. So I've got 2 defenders on my bench. Over at Palace, other 5.5 mil price defender. Expect him to be very attacking. I don't love the fixture against Chelsea. I've said, I'm on record, I think I'm pretty high on Chelsea this season. So he's going to be on my bench to start this week.
Okay.
Just purely based on fixtures. And then my other defender, Ezri Konza. So also, again, 4.5 mil defender. Good fixtures. Not going to really get any goals or assists, but should be nailed for 90 defensive contributions. Villa have a great fixture run coming up, so maybe get a clean sheet. Moving on to the mids. So I've played around with midfielders a little bit. Same strategy as you, going strong in the mids. So I've got Salah, who I have given the armband at the moment, the captain band. Palmer, Florian Wirtz, Titty Reindeers, and I'm definitely not just keeping him in my squad, so I can say Titty Reindeers, and Morgan Rogers. So Rogers is flagged right now. He has a knock, but he has been in lots of pictures on the training ground over the last week at Villa. So he might be someone that doesn't necessarily get 90 minutes, and here's where I like to do this strategy. Sometimes I will start someone who is flagged, because if they don't play, then FPL will automatically sub on the first person who's allowed to be subbed on. And we're not going to get into sub rules right now. But if he was on my bench and he played 60 minutes and he had an assist, I would never forgive myself. At 7 mil, I think he's still underpriced for what his goal contributions were last season in the goal and assist column. I expect him to continue that trend. So he was a late addition. You're shaking your head. What do you think? You don't love it?
Well, I don't love it.
Are you going to list it?
I'm not high on
Are you going to love it, or are you going to list it?
I would list it.
You would list it.
Did you see Ramsey to Newcastle?
I saw that, 40 mil.
How do you think that affects Villa? I don't think it's good.
Well, so I also saw...
So Rogers on the right.
Rogers was on...
Ramsey was on the left.
So funny enough, I thought I saw Leon Bailey also might be on the way out.
It's also not good.
So, well, it's good for me.
They're losing their squad.
Yes, but that also might be a sign that they're willing to sell someone because they're high on Rogers, right? They're going to look to integrate him more into their attack. We talked about Mallon. We've talked about Rogers. If Rogers is fit between the two, I'm going to take Rogers.
They're both 7. Yeah.
Who's 7? Rogers and who?
Ramsey.
Ramsey is 7?
Yeah.
For what?
I believe so. They had that bit backwards.
I thought Ramsey was 5.5.
5.5.
Okay.
Apologies.
It's okay. We can cut that. So, yeah, right now, I mean, that's probably my biggest risk just for game week 1 if he's going to start. But I'm fine with Munoz coming in, maybe get an assist. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Do you have Watkins up top? Are you going for the double up?
I do.
You do.
I have Ollie up top. I have Ollie up top. So for weeks, I had Jared Bowen at 8 mil. I was able to find that extra mil by bringing in Titty Reindeers. I was able to bring it, and I changed my defense a little bit, but I was able to find the extra mil, bring in Ollie Watkins. Watkins is in form. He's had a great preseason, plenty of goals, looks to be healthy. Asensio's gone, Rashford's gone. Like, he is getting these minutes. He's going to be on pens unless Tielemans for some reason takes him away. But I think Ollie's going to be on pens to start the season. I think Ollie's underpriced, frankly, at 9 mil. I think he probably should have came in at 9.5 or even 10 for his contributions last season. But that's not my job. It's my job to take advantage of it. So I have Ollie up top alongside, and I said it earlier, Dom Solanke. I loved that he got minutes in the alleged Super Cup final.
Made his
penalty. He's going to be on penalties. I love to have penalty takers. So when I look at this squad, I don't have a ton of penalty takers. It looks like I've got 4. I'd like to maybe start with 5. Penalties aren't everything, right? You need a little bit of luck to get penalties. Sometimes it's a little easier to get a deflection and get a goal or an assist than it is to get a penalty.
With the new assist rules.
Yep. Yeah. And then my third forward is just kind of that buried 4.5 mil Burnley forward, Obafemi. I could have chosen anyone here. I think another popular pick was Obi over at United, but...
Did I sway you at all with keeping Guyu?
I don't know. I had Guyu earlier today. So before this, I had Guyu, and I brought it Obafemi, and instead of Rogers, I actually had Semenyo. So Semenyo at 7 mil. I thought Semenyo was a phenomenal differential. I saw today that Kluivert's still injured. I saw today that Ouattara is actually making the move from Bournemouth over to Brentford. I think I saw Here We Go on that for like 30 mil too. Some decent funds there exchanged. So, but I don't love Bournemouth against Liverpool. I think Liverpool are going to come out. They're home against Bournemouth. They've got all these new signings. Like I don't see Semenyo being in form yet. Now that is a player who I will admit I brought him in last season, that being Semenyo, because Bournemouth were in excellent form. So Semenyo is going to be on my radar because if Rodgers, if he aggravates his injury and he could be out a long time, that could be a straight swap for a 7 mil midfielder, but we'll see. So I've got a few questions still around keeper, maybe around my third forward, maybe my 4.5 mil defensive contribution defender in Kanza. But I like where the squad is right now. I think I'm pretty close.
It's good.
I'm closer than I was. Yeah, we're running out of time. So speaking of time, so the deadline usually kicks in. It's an hour, 90 minutes. 90 minutes
kickoff.
Before kickoff of the first game in that game week. So just be aware of that. Sometimes the FPL app can be a little funny and it'll stay open for a few extra minutes. But I wouldn't wait to the last minute to make your changes because you don't want technical difficulties to be the reason that you don't have the team that you want to have. So before we wrap things up, there's something we want to do. Just to have a little fun with it this season.
Challenge ourselves.
So have you heard of AI?
Oh, who's that?
Allen Iverson.
What team's he on?
So I actually called Allen Iverson. I got his number. Number was 3. And I said, hey, AI, I'm taking this bit from the Bills. Did you see they did that? And they announced their schedule this season. They wanted to use AI to announce their schedule. And they had Allen Iverson come on with a piece of paper and just read the schedule. And they said, oh, AI read our schedule. It's brutal. It probably spent a lot of money on that. Anyway, that's real.
So you were against it, but now you're doing the same thing.
I'll do the same thing because it didn't cost me anything. Yeah. But what we wanted to do was see if Jim and I squads can beat an AI selected squad. So what we've done is we've gone ahead and we're using a few different tools to have an AI selected squad. But we want to just basically, what we're going to do is we're going to have AI select the squad and every week choose whether to bring a new player in. The AI is going to manage this team.
Make the team for us.
Make the team for us.
Or for itself.
It's going to be in its mini league. So what we want to do is just talk through it. We're not going to sit here and try to explain why AI chose what they did. We can probably assume that it's a combination of form, fixtures, expected goals, all the metrics and things that we talked about. But it'll be interesting to see what the overlap is. So Jimbo, why don't you read through the AI selected team?
And the name of the team? Did you name it yet?
So they are going to be managed by Lord Tinkerton in our Tinkertime FPL Pod mini league.
Awesome. So listeners can follow along.
Yes.
All right. They have in goal, they have Sanchez, who's starting, and Dubravka on the bench. A back line of starting Pedro Porro, Tarkowski, Goodmanson, and then Chris Richards and Agbadou.
They know we're a pronunciation pod.
Agbadou. I think I got that one right.
Wolves defender.
Yeah, Wolves defender.
That's an interesting one.
Goodmanson. Is that?
That's Leeds, I believe.
Leeds?
Yeah, Leeds defender, 4 mil.
Is he starting?
That's a good question. He's got to be.
I would hope so. Otherwise, his AI is.
Yeah, he's actually out on.
Oh, he's their left back.
Left back. So okay. I wonder if he gets forward at all. That could be interesting.
All right.
AI.
All right. The midfield. They have Palmer. They have Captain Salah, Bruno, Hertz, and Yuri Tielemans.
You know Yuri.
I know Yuri.
Yeah.
That S is always moving around in there. Strong midfield. Yeah. The early captain, though. Maybe they don't know about that.
They probably don't know.
Yeah.
Suckers.
And up top, they have Jean-Philippe Mateta, Strand Larson, and they have Mark Guiu on the bench.
So,
strong squad.
I see a lot of similarities between our squads and the AI one, which means we're probably just as smart as AI, which is great. Now, what's interesting about this, so the algorithm that is building this team is actually giving us some percentages. So what it has told us is that this team has a 95.6% chance of scoring at least 40 points. So, snaps for them. They have a 62% chance of scoring 60 plus points, which would be a pretty decent game week. Yeah. And they have a 13.8% chance of scoring 80 plus points.
That'd be a good week.
So I think of this as kind of, what is their chance of booming or busting?
Good God.
It comes back to the boom and bust. But I mean, 80 points on an opening game week would really set the stage for some competition in this campaign. I don't know if we could catch them.
I don't know if I love this squad. I think we're going to be in good shape. Strand Larson, I mean, I'm anti-Wolves this season.
Yeah, you hate Wolves.
They do have Mateta, who I like.
Jean-Philippe.
Yeah, we'll see how they do.
So we're going to lock this in. We're not going to wait till the deadline to change anything up. This is going to be the squad, and it'll be fun to watch every week how the AI makes its decisions. Are we smarter than the AI?
We'll update the AI's move every
week. Yep. We'll talk through what
week.
changes it's making. Could be making multiple changes. Could be making no changes, which would be really boring. But
Could be
we'll talk
blowing
about
it up.
Could be blowing it up. It does have an extra wild card, extra fixtures.
How will they plan for AFCON?
Oh, that'll be interesting. Not just for them, but for all of us, honestly. Jim, I think at this point we've kind of gotten to the final whistle here. In closing, any words of guidance, any words of wisdom as we
It's a long
embark
season.
on the new season?
It's a long season. Don't blow it up after 1 or 2 weeks. But also don't give up.
Don't give up. Stick with it. I love that.
Yeah. Put that on a throw pillow.
Yeah. We just want to take a minute too before we wrap up here. Thank you to all our listeners. Thank you to all of those who have joined our mini league. We will link it again in the description. We've got we're starting to build out our presence on Instagram and Twitter, and we've got our Spotify and Apple Podcast channels, and our YouTube channel being built out more and more as we push more content out. So please do give us a like, subscribe, follow on any of those platforms. Throw us a comment with your squad. We'd love to react to your draft, and we cannot wait to see some of the drafts and teams of those managers who are in our mini league. But next time we talk, we will have results to react to. Cannot believe that we've made it this far. But
Check out of work early tomorrow. Watch the game. Get up early on Saturday.
it's the best.
Yeah.
The early fixture is the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy tinkering.
Draft dreams rise like morning sun, chasing points, the game's begun. Big decisions week by week, fantasy glory's what we seek. Pick your squad, the clock won't wait. Captain choice will seal your fate. Two enthusiasts breaking it down. Fantasy kings, we're taking the crown.